Hello. This time I will explain how to integrate a data lakehouse with Minte. First of all, I want to explain what a data lakehouse is. Data Lighthouse allows us to store and manage large volumes of data of different types, facilitating access and analysis of information. What does this mean? That we have the ability to connect with different sources. Let's call it enterprise software, where companies fundamentally have the data. From there, we integrate with a system, a technological stack that we call Data Lighthouse, which allows us to synchronize the information and organize it in a certain way so that it is accessible. Subsequently, we provide this accessibility to programs or systems, such as Mint in this case, to enable access through natural language to all this information. Now, as we continue, we go to the Minted control panel where we select integrations. Then from Create a new integration, we select Flow Levant of Data Lakehouse and click on Create New Integration. Once we do this, it redirects us to the tab where we need to start configuring our integration. The first thing to configure is the name. In our case, it's data from fictitious RP. We will enter the same name. This is important as it will be displayed in the entire context of Minte. To be able to mention this integration, we click Save. Now, as we continue, we go to the Minted control panel where we select integrations. After creating a new integration, we select Cloud Levante Data Lakehouse and click on Create New Integration. Once we do this, it redirects us to the form where we need to start configuring our integration. The first thing to configure is the name. In our case, it's fictitious RP data. We will enter the same name. This is important since it will be displayed throughout the Minte context. To be able to mention this integration, we click on Save. The next thing we need to do is configure our data lake instance by entering the URL, the username, and the password. We ensure that each of these details is correctly saved. The next step is the configuration of the prompt. These are the instructions that allow us to handle the response from our data lake. In this case, we are providing both a context for the question and a series of additional values that might be useful to give us a much more enriched answer, such as the current date. In this case, these variables are dynamic. This means that there is no need to modify Thus, these types of values will simply be interchangeable during the process of rendering the question. Therefore, the only important thing here is to know that we can modify this type of additional text that is in natural language, but we will not modify the value of these variables, as this allows the system to identify where to replace this value with the real value, which would be in this case, for example, the exchange rate from dollar to euro. From there, we have a series of instructions and the context that is where it would allow us to add or modify the type of output we need. The next field is the mapping of the data. In this case, it is a JSON format that allows us to identify both the columns and the tables or views. The important thing about this configuration is to provide the artificial intelligence with additional context so it can understand what type of value each of our columns contains. This greatly helps to prevent errors. Once we have this data configured, we format and save. As the last configuration field, we have the ability to add examples. These examples can be very useful for artificial intelligence to identify how we wanted to construct our different requests towards the data lake. In this case, the most important thing is not to repeat ourselves. Simply provide a series of examples which will benefit it to give us our results at the data lake level. Once we have those examples clear, we simply save them. Now, we will go to the portal to add our integration that we have just configured. We click on Back to Integrations, select Administration from our main menu, Portals, select the portal to which we want to add the integration, and go to the Integrations menu. And at this point, we have a button to add a new integration where we select the integration of the RP that we have configured. We click on Add Integration. Once we do that, we can open our chat window in a new window and go to the command selection where we can already see our configured integration. We select it and ask any type of question to our data. In my case, with this example database, I am asking to know which client has the highest revenue I currently have in the test database. And once it answers us, so that you know, Minte does not store any type of information. We make the queries directly on the data web. This is to have the most updated information and for security purposes. As you can see, it indicates in our response that this client, can code, has this revenue. We are going to check it by performing a simple query to identify with an order from our list of clients that can code is indeed the client with the highest revenue.